Okay, here we go with a self-tutorial, cutting my own hair. I start off with my clipper. Here I'm using a number 5. You could use a number 5, 4, 6, somewhere around there. What I'm doing, if you notice, I'm working from that bottom up. And as I have that clipper at my nape, I laid it flat. And then as I start passing the curvature of my head, right, or that parietal ridge where you feel that curve, I start working it out so I don't follow the head shape. And the reason is I need a little bit of that length so it can connect to the top. So working on the opposite side, I do the same thing. So I start from that front, using my comb that hair down. And what that's going to do is going to help me as I comb upward with my clipper to be able to catch all those little hairs so that stays nice and even. Working this back hair is one of the toughest parts because a lot of times your arms start getting in the way. So a self haircut is something that takes a little bit of practice, I would say. So, working through that back, you notice that I start laying that clipper a little bit flatter, making sure that you see how I keep moving around just so I could see all the different angles, make sure that that's nice and even all the way. At that bottom nape, I recomb it again. Once I get that hair nice and even, I start off with my scissor over comb. With my scissor over comb, this is a texturizing scissor. And the reason I use a texturizing scissor is because I want to blend that line, but it's a lot harder when you're cutting your own hair. So this allows me a little bit of freedom as I'm cutting the hair. So I have to go and stroke just a little bit more to make sure that I remove the length. But as I remove the length, I'm also adding just a little bit of texture. I like my haircut when I have a little bit of length onto it, that it just shows that texture feel. So working through that back of it, you notice again, working with my scissor over comb, I got to lay my head flat, almost down, so I could get around that crown area. With my hands, I start to feel the length and make sure that I got good balance from that. Now I take off those clips and I'm going to start off at that center. And with that center, I'm going to go in point cutting. So if you notice, I work from the centers out. I like to point cut that area because number one is I like to be able to have, again, that textured feel that connects to what I did on the sides. But also I could feel that tip of the scissor hitting my finger so I know I won't be able to cut myself. I start connecting that just ever so slightly to the corners. I'm also using like the wider part of my comb. So as I cut that, you'll notice that I'm going to start working to the back area. And as I work the back area, I start combing that hair forward. And the reason I'm combing it forward is because it's going to get a little bit longer towards the back. And I need that because when I brush my hair towards the front, at that crown, I don't want it to be too short where that hair starts to spike out. So I make sure that I comb that forward. I lay my comb just flat on my hand. So when you're cutting it, I still need that comb, right, to recomb. So if you notice, look, I just hold it and clip and basically just attach it to my pinky. So that way it stays flat to my head and I don't have to put it somewhere else and re-grab it again. So it just accelerates, makes it work a little bit quicker. Once I get that nice and even, all that top area, you start to just get a little bit more of that feel from it. Once it's nice and even, the way you like it, the length that you're at, I'm going to go to that fringe, right? So right at those fringe or bangs, however you want to call those, I go in just slightly point cut. With my trimmer, I start to go in with that detail. And this is where you got to be careful, making sure that your trimmer is not too sharp, that it won't cut you. I start using the edges of it and I start working just towards that center, right at the top of my ear. And then I'll work towards the opposite direction. And the reason is just so I could keep that as nice and natural as possible. On the opposite side, I'm going to do the same thing. So if you see, I'm always checking out and making sure that I get the best angle that I could see as I'm cutting my own hair. With that trimmer, again, working that area. Sometimes I switch from my left hand to my right hand, so it makes it easier for me to be able to get that hair. So once I line up right behind my ear, you notice in this area, I'm going to go down to my neck and I'm going to remove all those little hairs that I have. So I get that corner and then I'm going to remove all that. And that way it's just going to make it a lot easier for you to be able to see the line that you're creating, especially if you're looking at yourself through various mirrors. It helps a lot. So getting all that hair off of my neck, I make sure that I have good balance. I work to the opposite side. And here you see I switched hands. So here I'm switching also my position of my hand. So it's easier for me to go from that trimmer from the center, working my way out. Just making sure I get it as neat as possible. And once I get that, I'm going to make sure I dust myself off. And I'm going to use some Tea Tree Shaping Cream, one of my favorite products to utilize. It's going to give me a matte finish. It's going to be a little bit more of a flexible hold, but at the same time, what it's going to do is just give me that separation that I'm looking for with my point cutting. So you see here, just a nice little haircut, fresh look. Woo, hope you enjoy this one.